Today, we're going to learn how to figure out the density of an object. Our essential question for the day is how do we determine the density of an object? And our objective is that we'll be able to use mass and volume to calculate the density of an object. So what is density? Density is just a measure of how heavy something is for its size. So if water has a density of 1 gram per every milliliter, it does. That means that every gram of water takes up 1 milliliter of space. Anything with a density that is greater than 1 gram per milliliter will sink in water. And anything with a density that's less than 1 gram per milliliter will float in water. So anything that's heavier than water will sink. Anything that's lighter than water will float in water. So again, density is simply a measure of how heavy something is for its size. Examples of this include marshmallows versus aluminum pellets. Although they might be of similar size, we know that a marshmallow is lighter than an aluminum pellet. Therefore, it is less dense than the pellet. In order to calculate the density, we must know both the mass and the volume of an object. If you can remember back to some of your math classes, you'll remember that the formula to find the volume of a solid is length times width times height. What formula then do we use to find the volume of a liquid? That's a tough question, but I have an easy answer for you. We're going to use what's called the density mass volume triangle, or as I like to call it, the magic triangle. To calculate the density of an object, you'll simply divide the mass of the object by its volume. Well, how do you know that? Because the magic triangle told me so. As you can see, we have mass at the top, volume in the lower right corner, and density in the lower left corner. In order to determine which formula that I'm going to use, I would simply take my hand, hold it up to the screen, and cover up the corner that has density in it. What I'm left with is mass divided by volume. Therefore, I know that that's the formula that I'm going to use to reveal or uncover density. In much the same way as we can use the magic triangle to determine the formula for density, we can also use it to determine the formulas for volume and mass. Take your hand, cover up the lower right corner, which has volume in it, and you'll see that the formula to find volume is mass divided by density. If you're searching for the mass of an object, take your hand one last time and cover up the top of the triangle, and you'll see that you're left with density times volume. And that formula will give you the mass of an object. Simple, easy, lemon squeezy. Okay? Now let's practice it. With a partner, work on this problem. A 50-gram piece of aluminum has a volume of 18.5 milliliters. What is its density? I've included the magic triangle to the right of this slide so that you have it readily available. You'll have 1 minute. Your time begins now. And that's time. What answer did you come up with? If you came up with 2.702 as a repeating decimal, then your answer is correct. We would shorten that down to simply 2.7, and then we would place grams per milliliter. So G, a forward slash, and then M capital L behind it. So our final answer would be 2.7 grams per milliliter. So the density of a piece of aluminum is 2.7 grams per milliliter. Let's try it again. What is the density of a piece of wood if its mass is 100 grams and its volume is 50 cubic meters? You'll have 1 minute to complete that. Remember to use the magic triangle. And that's time. What did you get this time? If you answered 100, if you answered 2 grams per cubic meter, then you are absolutely correct. Because again, the formula for density is simply mass divided by volume. Great job. Now let's try to use our magic triangle to do something a little bit different. Here you see that we're looking for the mass of the copper pellets. The density of copper is 8.96 grams per milliliter. John put some copper pellets in water and they displace 30 milliliters of water. What is the mass of the copper pellets? Again, you can use your magic triangle to solve for mass. Let's see if you remember how. I'll give you 1 more minute to complete this problem. And that's time. So, what formula did you use to find the mass of the copper pellets? Right. You should have used density times volume. The density of our copper was 8.96 and the volume was 30. If you multiply those two numbers together, you should have gotten 268.8. So that means that the mass of the copper pellets is 268.8 grams. Great job. That's it for our lesson today. For your exit ticket, please answer the following two questions in your notes. One, what is the density of 180 grams of methanol whose volume is 600 cubic meters? And two, what is the volume of a 15-gram bottle with the density of 60 grams per milliliter? We'll review these tomorrow morning before we begin the next lesson. Great job, guys.